So, welcome to our session, Policy and Policy Implementation. Now we are looking forward to a workshop. We're happy to have our colleague here with us. Let me introduce Svetlana Muhejeva, who is going to share her experience of designing and implementing an intensive beginner course of the Russian language. So Svetlana, over to you.
Thank you very much for introducing me. And today we are going to speak about an intensive Russian course and how it can be enriched through introducing some elements of Russian culture, how students can be motivated to be actively engaged in it, and also how tangible results can be achieved. But before we start speaking about these things, let me tell you a little about where I come from. So I work in Latvia. It's one of the Baltic states. You can see it here in the map. And our university is in a beautiful city, in the capital city of Latvia, Riga. And it's a very eco-friendly city, so we are so eco-friendly that we even made friends with some beavers who came to live in our city, although these beavers from time to time destroy the trees in the city center. So I work at the Riga Stradins University, and this university is named after a prominent medical doctor, Stradins, because it grew from a medical institute which was founded in 1950. So this year we are celebrating the 70th anniversary of our university. And now we have about 9,000 students, and about a quarter of them are international students. So our international students mostly come from Germany and Scandinavian countries. And they come here to study medicine, to work, to earn a medical degree doctor. Sorry, a medical doctor degree. I work at the Language Center, and at this center we have both mandatory courses and optional courses. So our mandatory courses are Latin for medical students, English for specific purposes for all Latvian students, and Latvian as a foreign language for all international students. And the optional courses include Spanish, French, Russian, German. So Russian is one of the optional courses. I would like to ask you a question. Where do you come from and what language courses do you teach? Is it possible to receive some answers?
Yes, well, I'm Katarzyna, and I come from Brno. I'm employee of this Masaryk University, and I deal with medical Latin. I work at medical faculty as a Latin teacher, so I have broad experience with teaching this language for specific medical purposes.
Hello, my name is David. I come from Czech. I teach at the university, South Bohemian University in South Bohemia, southern part of the Czech Republic, and I teach English to bachelor students, and I also teach Russian for beginners.
Oh, thank you. Very interesting. Okay, let's have a look at the type of the course that I'm going to describe today. So it's Russian for beginners, and this course is taught to our international students, both those who study at our university, the Faculty of Medicine, and to exchange students who come through the Erasmus program. And for medical students, it lasts 32 hours, and for Erasmus students, it lasts 36 hours. So given these conditions, what would be the learning outcomes of the course? Let's have a look at the course syllabus. So we start with the Russian ABC, then we go on to speak about how to introduce oneself, meet people, Of course, we cover the polite phrases, numbers, periods of time, timetables, and daily activities. For medical students, we continue with parts of the body, symptoms such as pain, and how to communicate with patients about such symptoms. But for Erasmus students, we introduce the topic of a city, places, how to orientate in a city, or how to find certain places, so direction. But syllabus is syllabus, and the learners are different things. We know that our learners are not machines that are programmed to be hard-working students. So somehow we have to respect their needs and meet their needs through the course. And if we speak about university students, we can say that they belong to the age group of young adults. So, as far in the past as in 1933, an expert in teaching adults, Malcolm Knowles, called adult learners a neglected species. So, normally, in those times, adult learners were not considered as separate groups. But these days, we have had a lot of research and motivation, but still some ideas that were put forward by Knowles are still true. So Knowles defined the specific traits of adult learners, such as they're self-directed, which means that they set their own goals and strive to achieve them. They are experienced learners, which means that they come to the classroom with previous experiences, both positive and negative. They are oriented to their social roles because as adults they already have some social status and they wouldn't like to have it compromised through the learning process. Another feature is problem-centeredness because through the study process they hope to achieve certain results which will help them to solve problems that they expect in the future or having now. And as a result, they are much more internally motivated to learn than younger students. What can I say about these ideas? From my experience, I can say, yes, they are self-directed, but still they need clear guidelines from the teacher, right? So the teacher is the organizer of the study process, and the teacher leads the students to the course targets. Yes, they are experienced learners, but often they insist on their preferred methods of teaching. For example, if people have learned a lot of grammar in the previous language courses, they expect another language course to include a lot of grammar as well. So they are oriented to their social roles, that's also true, and they wouldn't like to feel or look childish in the classroom. That's why, in my experience, they just reject certain teaching methods, such as total physical response, for example. Problem-centeredness for me is a very positive feature because students want to achieve certain results and acquire language which will help them to communicate. And why are they motivated to choose this optional course? Because a big number of people in Riga are native Russians, and medical students expect to have some Russian patients when working with patients in hospitals, so they want at least to learn some useful phrases to communicate with patients. Another thing that they're very interested in is to learn Russian and come back home and say, you know, I have learned some Russian and this is a very positive thing on this CV as well. And as Latvia is a neighbor country to Russia, they also take the advantage of this position and travel to Russia, and again, Russian language is very useful when you are in Russia. So these are the things that define adult learners in our university, and how can culture help us to achieve the aims of the course and to meet the students' needs. So let's have a look. First of all, introducing culture aspects makes the course multifaceted. It's not only focused on purely linguistic aspects, it provides a broader picture to the students. It shifts the focus from boring, repetitive drills, which are necessary when we learn a new language. Another thing is that it makes the study process meaningful. So it places the language in the context, and students feel that there are real situations in which language should be used. Of course, it facilitates the study process, and as we can see here, the hierarchy of learning outcomes, according to Bloom's taxonomy. In such a short course, of course, students achieve lower learning outcomes. They remember new vocabulary, new phrases, they understand how to use them, they apply these phrases in a controlled classroom setting. But to achieve higher learning outcomes, such as being able to analyze, evaluate, and create, culture comes in very handy. And as a result, students have this sense of achievement. They feel that they do a lot of different things with the language, and they feel that their needs are satisfied. When we start this course, where do we start? How much do students know about the Russian culture? Actually, not very much. So they have heard of the material culture. They mentioned some Russian writers and composers who worked in the 19th century. It's only understandable because in the 20th century we were behind the Iron Curtain, and not much was known exchange culturally between countries. They often mention Putin and his politics, and once I watched a video in which a Finnish student was interviewed and asked the question, what should Russians be proud of? And the answer was, interestingly, Russian girls. So at first I was surprised to hear this answer, but then I started thinking, and it made me aware that really the image of a Russian female is a prominent image in the Russian culture historically, and nowadays women have always played a significant role in social life and cultural life. But if you ask me this question, then of course for me these are people who have been working both in arts and sciences and contributed to creating this rich Russian culture. And perhaps I could ask the question to you. So, what is Russian culture for you?
At the first moment, it's for me just connection to Russian literature, because I have many Russian authors who are very close to me, and also music, of course. I'm thinking about the other things. I'm sorry.
Yes, just first things that come to your mind. Very much.
For me, it's the same, basically. I like music, so Vladimir Vysotsky, for example, I can see in the picture. And literature, I like reading, so I like visiting places, maybe the countryside in Russia, going by train or traveling around Russia by train, visiting historical monuments, places, you know, cities, towns. So
Okay.
it's very complex question.
Thank you. And do you use these aspects of the Russian culture in your courses?
Sorry, we misunderstood. Could you repeat the question, please? Because it...
So you have mentioned what is Russian culture for you. Do you use this aspect in your courses?
If we apply these, like our knowledge in our courses, yes, but a lot of students don't know much about, or beginners don't know, as you said or mentioned before, they don't know very much about Russian culture, so they say like the capital of Russia is Moscow and maybe a few other facts, but no, they don't know much.
Right.
But it's, sorry.
Yes, thank you. So how to make students aware that there's a lot in the Russian culture and this is something that can be used for the course. So this is an idea that I always use. So in the very first lesson, I show them this video. And the question that I ask them, what elements of the Russian culture can you notice in the video? So let's watch the video and see what elements of Russian culture are used to create a positive image in this video. Just a moment, I'll show you this video.
Изменения в природе происходят год от года. Непогода нынче в моде, непогода, непогода.
Словно из водопровода льет на нас небес вода. Полгода плохая погода, полгода совсем никуда. Полгода плохая погода, полгода совсем никуда.
Никуда, никуда нельзя укрыться нам, но откладывать жизнь никак нельзя. Никуда, никуда, но знай, что где-то там кто-то ищет тебя среди дождя.
Громогрозные раскаты от заката до восхода, за грехи людские плата. Непогода, непогода, не обидно, не простуда, но серьезнее беда. Полгода плохая погода, полгода совсем никуда. Полгода плохая погода, полгода совсем никуда.
Никуда, никуда нельзя укрыться нам, но откладывать жизнь никак нельзя.
Никуда, никуда, но знай, что где-то там кто-то ищет тебя среди дождя. где-то там кто-то ищет тебя среди дождя. Никуда, никуда, никуда нельзя укрыться нам.
Откладывать жизнь никак нельзя. Никуда, но знай, что где-то там кто-то ищет тебя среди дождя.
Okay, I hope you heard the sound well, didn't you?
Yes, of course.
Very good. So students very much appreciate watching this video, and they have a lot of ideas what cultural aspects they noticed in this video, and such activity welcomes them to the course, and they already find themselves in this broader picture of Russian culture. And now I would like to share some practical ideas that I use in classes. So we start with the Russian ABC, and as a native Russian, I have to remind myself that Russian is a difficult language to learn, and Russian ABC is a very complex thing to acquire. Once a student of mine was so amazed by the word Australia that he took a picture of the poster which he accidentally sees somewhere with this Russian word and sent it to every friend and every relative. Because what is the word Australia for a foreigner? It's an ABC word, right? So the person looks at this word and, what strange word, an ABC word. So it's a good example of how foreigners perceive the Russian language, that it's very, very unusual and new for them. To train reading in the first classes and to train articulation of the Russian sounds, I mostly use tongue twisters. So of course we start with short words, we start with letters with short words, but then we come over to tongue twisters. Why? Because tongue twisters, they are meaningful, they are fun to train articulation, but such letter combinations, as you see on the right in the screen, although even put in the context, some kind of context, still students do not appreciate it. Again, it's about them feeling adults, right? They don't want to look or sound childish, right? So tongue twisters are okay with them, but just letter combination, not something that they appreciate very much. Another thing to train articulation is chanting, of course. Perhaps not singing, but chanting. So when you play videos in which there are songs which help the students to chant. For example, a cartoon about Bremen musician, right? There is the phrase, "Ничего я не хочу," and it's very good to train articulation of the sound ch, and also for students to remember that this is the n, this is e, ch, so these are difficult letters for foreigners. But on the other hand, if we look at this activity from the cultural perspective, right, it introduces to the students the idea that Russian culture is very open, because it's a cartoon about Bremen musicians, a traditional German story that it was adopted by the Russian culture and developed into an adventure story of troubadour and princess. And this creates a very warm and welcoming image of the Russian culture. Students feel at ease and not rejected by the Russian language. Another theory of adoption from outside is a story about Winnie the Pooh. And it's a cartoon on which generations of Russian people have grown. So here we chant the phrase «Хорошо живет на свете Винни-Пух». It's a phrase from this cartoon. So the students again appreciate very much watching this cartoon. It's very short. So Winnie the Pooh in this cartoon is a very creative character who creates certain chants and chants them. So why don't we watch this cartoon as well, because it's quite short but enjoyable. Just a moment.
Если я чешу затылки, не беда. В голове моей опилки, да. Но хотят ко мне опилки, но кричалки и мобилки, а также шумелки, пыхтелки, запелки. Сочиняю я неплохо иногда, да. Хорошо живет на свете Винни-Пух, оттого поет он эти песни вслух. И не важно, чем он занят, если он худеть не станет, а ведь он худеть не станет, если, конечно, вовремя подкрепиться, да. Трам-парам-пам-парам-пам-пам-пам. Пум-пурум-пум-пум-пум-трам-пам-пам. Пум-пурум-пум-пум-пум. Пум-пум-пум-пум-пум-пум. Пум-пурум-пум-пум.
So it has immediate effect on the students. Students are extremely happy to watch this cartoon and to chant the praise given by Winnie the Pooh. Another challenge for an intensive Russian course is to be able to memorize as much vocabulary as possible. Of course, here the obvious choice would be rhymes, right? Because rhymes are very rhythmical, they're easy to pronounce, and they give students a good chance to remember things. For example, here a rhyme saturated with numbers, right? So each student read this rhyme and find the numbers, and they remember them very easily. And goes together with another cartoon, which also has some features of Russian culture. But what I like very much in this respect is the use of proverbs, because the Russian language is very rich in proverbs, and you can find proverbs for any topic. So here you can see two examples of proverbs about numbers, and here you can see 3 examples of proverbs with parts of the body. So what we do with students, we read these proverbs, they find the names of parts of the body in them, and we translate these proverbs, and then they send message in their own language. And we have fun comparing cultures and comparing what the messages are given in different cultures. Here is a very good example. Муж голова, а жена шея. The husband is the head and the wife is the neck. And students do not decipher this meaning, which is given through the Russian culture, right? So never, not a single student deciphered the meaning of this proverb correctly. And after having this enjoyable activity, you can give a gut feel to the students and see if they really remember the names of the parts of the body which we have been speaking about. Another very painful topic for me is teaching grammar, right? So although the course is very short, but still students insist that we should learn some grammar. And at the beginning, when I started teaching this course, I thought that I would use lexical approach in which just language chunks are given and students work with all phrases and sentences without analyzing them very much. So it just touched upon certain grammar aspects, but never went deep into it, right? And actually, some students were dissatisfied with them because they insisted that grammar should be taught. Okay. Then I thought that it would be a good idea to practice grammar structures. For example, we introduce the daily activities. It goes together with present tense forms of verbs. And here I present the way that I use for students to have considerable amount of grammar practices. So it's a warm-up activity which I use at the beginning of the classes after students are introduced with this present tense rules. So I choose some rhymes or songs in which present tense is used, like here, я на солнышке лежу, я на солнышко гляжу, я лежу и лежу, и на солнышко гляжу. So here we have the first person singular, right? Again, we read with students these rhymes, we translate them, we find the verb forms, we discuss what kind of verb form it is, and then as a reward for this intensive activity, I show them the video from which this rhyme comes, and then I ask them to transform this rhyme into all other present tense forms. So here it's in the first person singular, and I ask them to transform it in the first person plural, then second person singular plural, and third person singular plural. And if we again and again do this activity at the beginning of each next class, so students get used to these forms and become very proficient in these grammar forms. And here I show some examples of videos from which this rhyme can be taken. So here, like in the previous slide, it's a cartoon about the lion and the tortoise. Here, a famous Russian song, I'm going in Moscow. And here is another Russian song about the Queen of Beauty. So you can take anything which would be of interest for the students and use it in this activity. Of course, speaking about Russian culture, we cannot afford to not to mention Pushkin. And I use this beautiful poem by Pushkin to introduce the notion of formal and informal communication. It's very interesting, true situation that the poet describes in this piece of his. Then Russian cities, they also provide a very rich cultural context and a lot of things to discuss with students. For example, this picture of the Red Square, actually the students do not know very much about Moscow, about the Red Square, and it's very much connected to the Russian history, so they feel that they learn a lot about Russia. Although our discussions are very short, they are not very much time-consuming, but still they give students a very good understanding of this cultural context. And of course, Russian personalities, for example, you can use them to drill short dialogues of meeting people. You remove questions from these dialogues and you ask students to complete the dialogues by using two personalities. Or another way how these two personalities can be used is to speak about the dates of birth, and then ordinal numbers can be trained in students. And of course, even in the autumn semester, especially in the autumn semester, we cannot omit speaking about the New Year, because celebrating the New Year is a major celebration in Russia, and it's very noisy, very cheerful, and also it has something to do with Christmas, right? Because of the Soviet period, Christmas celebration was replaced by celebrating the New Year. And here I show students a very informative video in which they see how the New Year is celebrated, and again I ask them to compare how New Year is celebrated in their countries, find something in common and find something that is different. And one more thing, which is very important for beginners, although they just begin learning the language, but still there are some chances to give them to experiment with the language. And at the very beginning of the course, students, in order to learn Russian numbers, are given the task to read these rhymes made of numbers, right? So in this way, they practice saying numbers and learning them. But you also may ask them to create their own rhymes. Can you imagine that in the very first classes of the Russian course, students already experiment with the language in this way. And they're very happy and they feel this mastery of the Russian language because they are the authors of those rhymes. And we have a lot of fun reading these rhymes together, and they feel like co-authors of the course. Actually, during this short course, I wouldn't say the students experiment with the language very much, but still they may use, for example, such phrases, "Говорите по-русски" humorously to people who do not use Russian. And one more thing that I have to mention, speaking about culture, we have to say that culture is not always a positive experience, so the term culture shock exists for a good reason. And there are some topics that you should be very careful or avoid mentioning at all. And for me, such topic is the Second World War. It's a very painful topic, controversial, so I never use it in my classes. Another thing that you have to be very open-minded to students' opinions. They may have very negative comments about what Russians do. For example, here a photo which illustrates urban climate. So once I heard from my student that Russians are just crazy people, they do crazy things, and then post on the internet, they place everything on the internet. Of course, they are a part of Russian culture, but it's just a part, not everything. Okay, and now let's move to the end of the workshop, and let's recap. So why culture should be used in an intensive Russian course? So on the one hand, it facilitates the acquisition of the language. ABC memorization, articulation of Russian sounds and their combination, vocabulary acquisition of grammar structure, and speaking in a controlled environment. But on the other hand, it places the language in a true-to-life context. The language becomes a part of a bigger picture. Students learn to decode cultural messages, they compare cultural values, and as a result, a richer picture of the world is created. They achieve higher level course outcomes, and as a result, they develop this sense of achievement and very satisfied with the course, say that the course results are much bigger than they expected, so they are very much satisfied. And here is my email address, which consists of my name, surname at our university site, rsu.lv. Please, I would be very much happy to receive some messages from you. Perhaps you would like to start some kind of cooperation. I'm open to any ideas, so I'm looking forward to receiving feedback from you. Thank you very much for your attention, and perhaps there are some questions if we have time.
Thank you very much for your enriching presentation. And if I may, I would like to ask you, how intensive are your courses? I mean, like, how many lessons per week do you teach, like, foreign students? during the
Yes.
semester? Or...
It very much depends on our administrative unit who are responsible for the timetable. So sometimes lessons are evenly distributed and we have one class a week, right? And students have enough time to prepare. But very often this optional Russian course is just placed at the end of the semester and we may have even 2 classes on one day. You see, so it's very intensive.
And how long does the lesson last? How long is it?
One class lasts 1 hour and a half, it's 2 academic hours. So on one day, students may have 4 academic hours of a language which they just start learning.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's the same. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your question. Any more questions, please?
Maybe I have a question. I'm curious to know how did you cope with the corona situation during the spring semester? If you can say anything more detailed about it.
In this new situation, I had to reduce the amount of the language which I can give the students, right? We use Zoom environment for our classes, so we moved from face-to-face communication with students to communication through Zoom, and it makes classes much more slow, right? So I cannot include everything into the course that I normally include in face-to-face communication. But otherwise, it's more or less the same. And I also introduced audio recording. So if I want to make sure the students are able to read something or to produce a story, I ask them to record this and send an audio file to me as a homework assignment.
Thank you very much.
Can I have a question?
Yes.
Yes, I'm interested if you are organizing any cultural events in which your students can participate, I mean Christmas or Easter events.
Definitely, we have a lot of events for international students, but the event that we organize in the Language Center, it's called a Language Afternoon, in which students come and do different things. They may sing a song in a foreign language that they are learning. They may speak about their own culture, their food, for example. Yes, we have this cultural event, but I have to admit that medical students do not willingly take part in it because they are extremely busy people, right? And so you have to just ask them very much. And normally these are people who come from India, right? In their culture, they cannot say no. So when I ask them to participate in this event, they just say, okay.
Great, thank you for the answer. Me, as a teacher of Russian, I have some tips how could we cooperate, so if you agree, I will write you an email and contact you.
Yes, please, I will be very happy to share.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Do you showed us the movie or the cartoon about Winnie the Pooh. Lots of these cartoons are from 60s, 70s, 80s, and the quality of the sound is not very, it's not perfect. So do you show it with subtitles or in your courses or without? Or?
We do this cartoon as a reward to the work that has been done previously, right? So we read the key phrase from this cartoon, we practice saying it, and then I just show a cartoon from which this phrase comes from. As beginners, students would not be able to like perceive from listening this fast tempo language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just for encouraging people, creating a positive atmosphere in the classroom.
Okay, thank you.
But the previous phrase from the cartoon about Brno musicians, «Ничего я не хочу», is pronounced slow enough in the cartoon itself. So yes, I place the phrase at the bottom, and then we practice it together with the cartoon, along with the cartoon song. So I look at the phrase, can it be used in which way?
Okay, Svetlana, many thanks for your workshop. Thank you for being with us. We wish you good luck
Yeah,
in your great work and hope to see you in Brno in next conference.
yes, I hope so very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much again.